Hello and welcome to another episode of Escape from Mount Backlog. Today we continue SYNTHWAVE month with Hotline Miami, the first commercially released game by Dennaton Games, which makes it all the more surprising that it's bloody fantastic. Hotline Miami is, in short, the most disturbing, hyper-violent, David Lynchian, neon-drenched Miami Vice nightmare puzzle game I've ever played. It also features Perturbator on the soundtrack, so that's a plus. Now you may be thinking, it wasn't marketed as a puzzle game. In fact, it was shown as a disturbing, hyper-violent, David Lynchian, neon-drenched Miami Vice nightmare top-down action game. And yes, while I will concede that mechanically it plays like a top-down action game, I'd like to argue that in terms of the game's design, it's actually a puzzle game. You see, each room or stage is set up like a puzzle for you to solve with gratuitous violence. It's the type of game built on trial and error gameplay. Until you make it through, the AI has a mostly predictable set of rules and actions, which you can manipulate to your advantage, like using a gunshot to lure a gaggle of henchmen into your firing line, or using doors to stun one enemy while taking out the other enemy in the room. What Hotline Miami does is present a challenge, and gives you, the player, all the tools you need to solve it. Given that the AI has a strict rule set and your suite of abilities, every challenge or puzzle will play out the same in each attempt. The AI will mostly respond as expected, and the mechanics stay consistent throughout, the only difference being your skill as the player, and the mask you have equipped. More on that later. Now, in fact, quick segue, one of the main mechanics of the game is equipable masks at the beginning of every level, with various bonuses and gameplay mods attached to it. Like Don Juan, the horse mask which makes doors lethal, or Tony the Tiger which makes your fists more effective, and my favorite for most of the game, Ted, which changes the rules of the dogs to cause them to not attack you. Seriously, dogs are assholes in this game. Anyway, like I was saying, hence a puzzle game. Unless you have superhuman levels of twitch accuracy, then you might make it through playing like a maniac. I can't. My incredibly old age prevents me from reacting fast enough to incoming threats. I kinda suck at Hotline Miami, to be honest. Remember when I said the AI has a mostly predictable set of rules and actions? Well, I have to talk about the bugginess of the overall game. It's not game-breaking in any sense of the word, but the AI can sometimes bug out. In my playtime, I encountered the following: enemies being deaf to shotgun blasts, enemies ignoring the corpse of their freshly murdered friend. Of course, these bugs aren't enough to detract from the overall experience, and because you die and restart so often, like so bloody often, it rarely matters when the AI isn't behaving. You're just a few seconds away from a re-attempt. But even when the AI isn't behaving, the game looks amazing. The pixelated blood and gore leaving just enough distance for you to fill in how gruesome your acts really are. Against the, I want to say, pure 1989 color palette, with the light pastel suits, flashing neon and garish linoleum flooring, every act on screen is at once mundane and absurd. You're shooting up a dance club that may or may not be a drug operation, filling the hallways with blood and viscera, but why are you even there? Is this a game to you? You, the player, move through the game, mundanely, completing level after level, just pushing forward. Are you smiling? Do you like to hurt people? The narrative itself is weird. Like Lynchian weird. Now, I mentioned David Lynch before, but to give you a bit of a primer, David Lynch is the writer/director behind Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, and of course the work he's most associated with, Twin Peaks. To describe something as Lynchian is to create an image in someone's mind where the absurd and often grotesque blend with the mundane. To quote David Foster Wallace, an American writer and English professor, Lynchian. A particular kind of irony where the very macabre and the very mundane combine in such a way as to reveal the former's perpetual containment within the latter. Lynchian works are at once familiar and foreign. I once heard it described as, it's like the real world, only people speak backwards and the sun rises at night and sets in the morning. Needless to say, the story can come across daunting and downright weird, making you eventually question reality itself, and it twists what you thought to be the truth into a mangled corpse by the end. But besides the story, this is what makes Hotline Miami a great video game. You can ignore the story. You can just play the levels and chase the high scores, and the game won't punish you for it. You really can just play chapter after chapter and get into a state of flow and indulge. It's like Doom in many ways, where the mechanics feel so good and bring you into such a state that you just can't stop playing. Well, that was a bit short. I mentioned how Lynchian it is, how weird it looks, how well it plays. I mentioned the difficulty. The soundtrack is great. You've got artists like Moon and Perturbator and a couple of others really giving you a thumping, heart-pounding soundtrack to keep you going through this game. It's a pretty good driving force. Yeah, I have no idea how to end this video, so here's a picture of a tree. Go play Hotline Miami. And that'll just about wrap up this episode of Escape from Mount Backlog. Have you played Hotline Miami? Do you plan to? Please let me know down in the comments below. And of course, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you are subscribed, hit that little notification bell icon to get notified when I upload more videos. Now of course next week will mark the return of multiplayer, and as I said in a previous video, we're taking on Crusader Kings. I'm still editing the first video, and let's just say it goes really badly for most of us. It's going to be great. Tune in next week when we'll be either looking at Neon Drive or Desync. I haven't decided yet, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.